Oh, your body. Hey, whoa, whoa, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, hey, whoa, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to AfroMike Studios. We offer podcast recording, editing, and consultation. For more information, visit our website www.afromikestudios.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at AfroMike Studios.
And we're going to explain to you what the funky logo over to the right-hand side of your screen is. We're really, really proud of that. In this session, we're going to be talking about the inspiration behind the creation of Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women and how it, in turn, has turned into other initiatives, including our soon-to-be released podcast. But there'll be more on that later. But first, I want our team to introduce ourselves. And let's start with, there's three of us. There's Nana Dakwa Sechiyama, myself, Malika Grant, and Fatima Derby. So Nana, if you would kick us off by introducing yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry. My name is Nana Dakwa Sechiyama. What can I say? I'm a blogger. I feel like it's such a passé term nowadays, but I really think of myself as a blogger. I'm a writer, which is basically an extension of my blogging persona. I'm a communications professional. I'm a feminist activist. I'm a mother to a 13-month-old. Yeah, that's me.
She's being really modest. She's like, yeah, that's me. She's amazing. She does so much more, but you'll have to follow her on her socials to learn all about the amazing things that Nana Dakwa does. But I'm Malika Grant, and I like to call myself a serial entrepreneur. I'm a multi-passionate creative, and my primary role, my day-to-day job, is as manager of Massy Media, which is the logo, the amazing logo that you see on your screen right now. And I also run a personal blog. It's called Mind of Malika, and it was built during the mommy blogging era, which is kind of definitely passé now. But I use that blog to discuss, marriage, motherhood, madness. That's my tagline. But it's also given me an opportunity to discuss, politics, race and social justice, and also a chance to create with other creatives, or connect with other creatives. I'm also an author of 7 books. I'm working on my 8th, and I'm a foodie. I love to bake. And last year in 2020, during the pandemic, I launched my brand in South Africa where I live, and it's called I Nibble. So if you're ever in the Western Cape, come down and I will feed you fudge. Fatima?
Hi, everyone. My name is Fatima Derby. I'm a queer feminist writer and organizer based in Accra. I work as Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women. I manage the blog. I also do writing. I've written I was a fellow of the African AWDF Women's Writers Fellowship in 2019. Some of my work has appeared in the Await Feminist Realities magazine. I've written also for CHA Journal. In terms of organizing, I'm a queer activist in Ghana. I organize the Young Feminist Collective based in Accra, and we're just a group of young feminists who are continuing in the badassery of our feminist ancestors. I also organize a queer feminist collective called The Gathering. And what we do is that we focus on creating spaces for lesbian, bisexual, queer, trans, and non-binary people to have conversations around sex and sexuality, and also like unpacking and navigating queer identities in spite of the fact that we live in a homophobic society. On the flip side, I spend a lot of time on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm almost always watching Netflix. So that's just about me.
Okay, so we wanted to start by getting folks, doing something. And so we have a poll that we're going to ask you all to participate in. It will be fun, and I will tell you the prize at the end. So, AfroQueer folks, can you please launch our poll? Maybe it's just taking the tech a few minutes to launch the poll, but I hope the poll will appear on our screen soon so that we can test your knowledge about adventures, about blogging. I'm curious if folks who are here are, diehard adventure fans or diehard AfroQueer fans who just thought they'll come and check out what this adventure session is about. But actually, while we're waiting, maybe folks can just introduce themselves in the chat so we get to know the people who are here. Maybe you can just type your name or your pseudonym or whatever name you feel like sharing and say tell us your interest in the session. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now in case maybe that's interfering with the poll being shown. I'm seeing at least one familiar name in the chat. Hey, darling. I don't know if folks are able to unmute or if everybody's on mute by default.
Hi, Nana.
Hey, honey. How you doing? Good to see you.
Good, my love. How are you? I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, I was enjoying watching you dancing on Instagram earlier today. So
that man is my new favorite thing on the internet.
oh my God, that was just the best. That was just the best. You want to tell everybody your Instagram profile so they can also get the same joy that I got this morning?
Well, first of all, I will tell you the Instagram profile of Kelvin Ikwara, who is the new, he's a Kenyan, he has gone viral. He's a Kenyan math teacher who also has a TikTok account where he does dance challenges, and he's like so funny. But you can duet with him, and I do every day. I do one a day. I tell my sisters, I duet with Kelvin a day. Keeps sadness away.
Thank you, darling, for sharing that. So that just was like the most fun day. Yeah. Tevin, can you give us an update on what's happening with the poll? Do we need to give up on the poll and move forward, or can I hope that the poll will still happen? Like, I want to do my poll.
That sounds like double entendre.
Okay, all right. So does anybody else want to introduce themselves or say hey or speak about their interest in the session? And for the folks who are watching us live, I think the details, if you want to have like a more intimate conversation with us, you can also enter our Zoom and get close and personal with us.
That's right. Come into our Zoom zone.
Yes. Like, I think you might have to sing for the people in the live.
I want to talk about polls. Since, you've brought up, I want to enter my poll. Has anyone here ever done pole dancing just for fun or as a workout? While we're waiting for our poll, let's talk about the other poll, even though, it's spelled differently. I have.
Okay, share more. We want to know.
So I went to a session called Pilates. So it's like Pilates, but it's Pilates. You get?
I get.
Yes.
And how
they were like, they said, bring heels. You have to bring heels. And I showed up with these little, there's the poll. Never mind. The story will come later.
Okay. Yeah, it's so much harder than it looks. I've never done it. Yes.
It's like a lot of upper body strength. They don't get the pole dancers are acrobats and what's the word? I'm sorcerers.
Okay, so our first question is, when was the Adventures blog founded? No cheating, no going to our websites to look for the answer. Maybe we can bring up the next poll now.
Okay, so I'll continue my story while we wait for every time the story, we'll finish the story as the poll questions come.
Good idea.
So they're like, yes, come with heels. And I went with a group of, friends, coworkers, and everybody showed up in like 6-inch heels. And I showed up in these little like kitten clear plastic, is that JCPenney for like $5.99. It was really bad. And they were flip-flops. They were like flip-flop heels. They weren't even like proper heels. So yeah, and I was old enough to know better. I was a 30-year-old woman, But yeah, the woman who was in charge of our session was so graceful. I mean, like, I'd never physically seen anybody ascend a pole, and she just hung there. And she was a Black woman, right? So, and it's just rare because, or at least in that my part of Atlanta was, if you get like deeper into Atlanta. So she was just suspended in midair, and she was talking about how she embraced the pole after, you know, to shed her baby weight. And I'm like, I literally don't care. It was amazing. But yeah, it takes a lot of strength to work a pole. And yeah, I firmly believe it should be an Olympic game.
Yeah, some of my friends who are also in the sort of, I guess I'll call it sex positivity community, like Kaz, who also does the spread, and Tiffany Mugu, who does, who's like co-curator and co-founder of Whole Africa, as well as has a new podcast called Basically Life. And a lot of folks may know her from the Wildness. Yeah, I see them on Instagram showing off their pole dancing moves, and I'm just watching like in awe, like, oh my God, I wish I had like a quarter of that level of fitness.
You could do it, Nana. You can start with like a spin. It's like you can.
I think I know my limits. Fatima, how about you? Have you ever thought of doing pole dancing?
No. I
like the way.
I my best to no. The course I
think you and I like somehow we're getting left out, you know.
I know, because it's always so fun to look at, right? But I know it's not easy. I know it's definitely not easy.
Yes. And darling, check out P Valley. So is it a show about poles? Okay, our next poll is all right. Which media mention led to the highest number of visitors in one day to the adventure site? So giving you a couple of seconds to indicate the right answer.
Or an answer.
Yes, or an answer. Okay, and then I'll say to him, let's go to the next one, which is the final one. Thank goodness. Oh my goodness.
So while we wait for the next one, I would like to encourage every person here, every woman, every person to get on a poll. You don't have to be Janine Butterfly. I encourage you to Google Janine Butterfly.
I was going to ask, and I was like, is this one of those questions that you ask and you show how uncool you are? Like, I'm always, you know, one of the cool kids still. Meanwhile, I know I need to just accept my anti-status.
Your anti-status is fine. I mean, you had to go through a lot in life to get to anti-status.
No, I'm not quite ready.
Also, Nana, you're a cool aunt. So that's cool. You're one of the coolest. Like, you're one of the coolest.
Thank you. I wanna aspire to rich anti-sugar mommy like levels. You know,
you are yummy mommy.
Oh, I like. All right. And for the folks who are watching us live, if you have any questions, any comments, you know, pop it below the live stream. And even if we don't get the chance to answer during the live stream, we commit to answering afterwards, or tag us on our socials, which is Adventures From on Twitter. And then on Instagram, we're also Adventures From on Instagram, aren't we? Yeah. And then our blog, check us out, www.adventuresfrom.com.
Also, you can check out our YouTube channel, because we've started to upload very juicy videos on our YouTube. So our YouTube is also Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women.
And can you say something about, you know, the latest YouTube that went up? I'm quite excited about that.
Okay. So we started this, Malika, is it a program or an initiative where we kind of like, you know, engage already existing YouTubers, and we kind of, you know, ask them to create content for our channel. So we posted a video by Suhaida too, and it was basically a story time video where she kind of narrated her first sexual experience, and it's just like really fun, really interesting. I would encourage everyone to check it out.
And I love Suhaida too. She's a really amazing human being, and you know, I love her YouTubes. Final question. Yes, which 5 countries Tevin, you've left out one of the countries. Which 5 countries does Adventures tend to get its most of its visitors from? Yeah.
And we get a prize at the end, right?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Are you able to show us the results, Tevin? In seconds, or we need another story? Okay, all right. Oh, I love that, people thought we started in 2007. We actually started in January 2009. Yes. So Adventures has been in existence now for what's going on 12 years?
12 years. 12 years in January.
Yeah. And people were just really like hedging their guests for this one. So when we got a media mention in the New York Times, it was an article by Muna El-Tahawi, an Egyptian-American writer and firebrand activist who I really love, and she referenced, it was literally just a line where she named Adventures. And on that day, we got like 78,000 hits, So if you look at the stats in the background, it's like, we're like this, and it's like, woo, all the way to the top. So yes, if you're a blogger, if you can try and get, some media attention, anytime we've been profiled in any mainstream or even alternative media platform, has always driven traffic to our blog for years and years. Okay. And then the next one. So this one, like, there was a mistake. I'm going to blame AfroQueer Tech because it's meant to be 5 countries, and those countries tend to be the USA, the UK, Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya. Yes, those tend to be in our top 5. So if Kenya wasn't the first one, that would have been the correct answer. Yeah, I'm curious, is there anything about these results that surprises anybody? Any questions that anybody wants to ask based on these polls? Or the results of the polls? I'm going to take the answer to be a no. And then I am just going to go back to sharing my screen. 1 second. Okay, all right. So we wanted to also, a question that we tend to get asked a lot is, how did you guys start Adventures? What happened? To tell a little bit about our genesis, our origin story. And Adventures wouldn't be here if Malika and I hadn't met in 1994 in 6th form. We were best friends. We are still best friends. In fact, we call ourselves, we have an acronym. We have our own specific acronym, which is BFFFL, 3 Fs. And that stands for, Malika, do you want to chime in and say?
Best friend for freaking life.
It's like we're tied to each other. We have no choice, right? Like we have other best friends who go in and out of our life, and it's fine. We can be polyamorous with our best friendship, but we are best friends for freaking life. And when we were in 6th form, both Malika and I just really loved communications. And we said that one day we're going to create a badass communications agency, and we were going to call it Massy. So the MA in Massy stands for Malika, And SI stands for Sisi. A lot of people don't know this, but you know, like in Ghana, you have what they call a house name. My house name is Sisi, SI. And in college, for some reason, everybody was calling me Sisi. Actually, I know why, but that's too long a story. And so, yes, hence Masi Media. So, I mean, Malika and I started Adventures, and in terms of how we actually decided to start this blog, I went on a holiday with a bunch of other African women. It was just ahead of my 30th birthday. We went to the western region of Ghana. We were on the beach. We were drinking cocktails. And our conversation kept coming back and back to the topic of sex, you know? And for me, it was like a bit of a unique experience, because for me at the time, it was the first time I had been with a group of other African women, and people were speaking openly and honestly about their desires, about their experiences, about their fantasies. And my mind was blown. And I was just like, oh my God, why has it taken me until the grand old age of 30 to be able to have frank conversations about sex with other African women? Like, you know? And Malika and I had always had that relationship where we always used to speak about our sexual exploits or our lack of sexual exploits. You know, back in the day, we would write each other letters. We would actually write each other all these long letters detailing whoever we're dating, what had happened. But now we had phone calls. So I remember coming back from exam, calling Malika so excited. I'm like, oh my God, I just came back from this holiday. It was amazing. And I want to start a blog about sex. And Malika, do you remember what you said?
I do, because right around that same time, I had been speaking to my grandmother about her sexual past, which, you know, was a little risque, asking your grandmother about her sexual past. And I said to Nana, you know what, I want to write a book called Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women and profile women that were in my grandmother's age to get some of that knowledge, because she was just really talking about, you know, one of my favorite stories is we used to chew corn for fresh breath if we wanted to kiss the boys. And I was like, you know, how great would that be to put it in a book? And Nana, you said.
Now you're going to make me seem like a hater. So before I say that, let me just say, you need to still write that book, right? You need to still write that book. But I was like, you know, people say they're going to write books and they never do. So let's start a blog together. Let's call it Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women. And later on, we will turn it into a book. So the book, Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women, is yet to come. And Malika, I think you need to get cracking on it.
So destroyed my dreams.
So that's the history of how Adventures began. And, you know, for like 11 years, it's very much been a shoestring operation funded by Malika and myself, you know, and there have been so many African women all over the world who have generously contributed to the blog. People wrote series, people, like so many people, you know, guest contributors like Ekuba, Nina Marcia, like Pepper Tassel. Many of them women we have never ever met, even to this day, who would just invest so much time and energy into Adventures. And I really feel like the reason why Adventures as a community, as a space still exists today is thanks to all of those contributors, you know? Yes, I feel like it's basically African women who have kept Adventures going. And then finally last year, someone approached us and offered us some money. And we were like, oh, okay, we need to kind of have a structure in place. And that's how we decided to finally create that company that Malika and I dreamt about as far back as 1996. Yeah. So, Malika, you want to tell folks about Masi Media?
Absolutely. So what Nana didn't tell you was that our uniform was supposed to be tight leather black skirts for our company and red silk tops. And we were supposed to have red drop top Mercedes Benz, but it's coming.
It is coming soon.
It is coming soon.
I wanted a red leather skirt, though, I have to say. That was my vision. I definitely
yes. I wanted a black leather skirt, and you wanted a red leather skirt. Yes. So we think of Masi Media as a social enterprise. And you'll see here on the screen that we've got Massy Media on the left and Adventures from the right. So you're probably sitting here thinking, I thought I was sitting in an Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women, discussion. And the two are, we think of them as distinct brands, but they're not separate. So I think that the most useful analogy is to use Coca-Cola, right? So Coke has over 200 brands, and they make Coke, they make Sprite, they make Appletizer, which we drink in South Africa and love, several waters and coffee. Each one of those is their own distinct brand, but they're all part of the Coca-Cola family. So Massy Media holds all of the different Adventures brands and initiatives. So we have our live festival, which is annual at the end of every year. And due to the pandemic, we've had the opportunity and an online portion, which is really important in bringing, a more diverse. Got the episodic television series, the Adventures blog, which everyone knows, and the Adventures podcast, which brings us all here today in this collaboration with AfroQueer. So, Nana talked a lot earlier about the community engagement and what has sustained Adventures over the years. And so that's why we think of our company as a social enterprise, where our specific social objectives are to have, an open and frank conversations about sex and pleasure. And these conversations are inclusive and work to promote the rights of women in the creative arts, or using creative arts and digital media to meet those specific objectives. So Massy Media is still young. We will be a year in May. May 6th will be our first anniversary. So our impact right now, it benefits society. And so while we're waiting for those profits to come in, that's where the social part comes in. And then when those profits come in, or greater profits come in, those will feed into our social programs, which is promoting the rights of women and the people with from diverse sexual backgrounds. We are definitely Pan-African in our philosophy. Nana and I met at HDIC, which is a small college in Ghana, which also really preaches, Pan-Africanism as a philosophy. And I personally have no choice because I have an African-American mother and a Ghanaian father. So Pan-African all over here. I also believe in the strength and the unity of bringing Indigenous Africans and Africans across the diaspora. And we consider diaspora to be, US, UK, Brazil, anywhere people of African descent find themselves in the world, we consider them part of the diaspora. And, with those histories and our stories being so connected, it only makes sense that we would work together. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. With our present realities and cooperate. And so when you come to the blog, you will see, stories of people from all over the globe. We've had people from the Caribbean who've contributed, people from the UK. And so it just, for me, it's a point of pride. And I think for all of us, it's a point of pride to have so many different African women make our dream a reality. We couldn't do it without our community, whom we love.
Malaka, can you say a little bit about the episodic series that we're conceptualizing with NOSA?
Yes, actually. So that is in Beyond the Blog. Shall I take every point, or?
I feel like just the episodic series would be great.
Just the episodic series. Okay. So the episodic series came about because there is a fantastic documentary maker. Her name is Nosa Garrick. She's a woman of Nigerian descent who lives in New York. And she reached out to Nana in 2018, was it?
Actually, it was way before then, but I can't remember.
Okay.
We actually started all working together.
Yeah. So she reached out to Nana way before then. And then 2018, the end of 2018, she reached out to Nana again. And then we connected and we started work on an episodic series. And then Nosha approached us and said, hey, do you want to apply for the IFP program? And IFP is independent film producers. They now go by the Gotham. And out of 400 applicants to IFP, and Moonlight has come out of IFP. Many great films have come out of IFP. Out of 400, there were 10, and we were one of 10 that won. And so in 2019, we wrote a script in January, submitted it in February, and in April we were at IFP. So again, just going back to that strength of collaboration, great storytelling, because Nana's a fantastic storyteller. Nosa is an amazing storyteller. I'm a pretty damn good storyteller. So that synergistic effort got us into the program. And we were then able to connect with so many different professionals from AMC, Netflix. And so that's where we're still in production now, but there'll be more about that later on. But that's the episodic series, which is now in production.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Malaika. And initially, we're thinking we're going to go into breakout rooms, but honestly, it doesn't feel like in the Zoom we have enough folks. I guess most people may be watching live or may watch afterwards. So shall we stay in here and each speak about the various areas? Sounds good?
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fatima, do you wanna kick us off by talking about the Adventures Live Festival? You're on mute.
Wow, I really need to stop doing that. Speaking of mute. Okay, so I did like a short presentation type thing. So I want to be able to share my screen so that, because I have some pictures from the festival. But I can't share if you're still sharing. Oh, great. Okay. What's this? What's going on?
Say Kyle, my people. You must create a homeland for a transgender. No.
I think we're being Zoom bombed.
Yeah, interesting experience.
Yeah, this is the first time.
I think you can go ahead, Fatima, whenever you're ready.
Yes, please.
Okay, that was very disconcerting. Okay. All right. So please let me know if Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Fatima again, and I'm going to be speaking about the Adventures Live Festival. So basically what the Adventures Live Festival is a festival, obviously, that we've been organizing since 2019. What's this? I'm so sorry. There's something showing on my screen.
It's a swastika, but just carry on.
Wow. Okay. Right. So we've been organizing the festival since 2019, and it's just basically like I cannot continue.
You're on mute, Fatima.
So, okay. Can you see my screen still?
We can still see your screen. Don't worry, just carry on.
Now my screen is gone blank. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on, but my screen is gone blank now. I can't see anything. And now I'm frozen.
Sure, let's begin again if that's okay.
So do we need to leave this room, basically?
Oh, your body. Hey, whoa, whoa, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, hey, whoa, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to AfroMic Studios. We offer podcast recording, editing, and consultation. For more information, visit our website www.afromicstudios.
Oh my goodness.
I have to say, in a way, I'm quite pleased with Zoom bombs because I've never experienced it before. And I felt okay, anyway, I guess we're live, so we should go back to the topic. Sorry,
We
Fatima.
should go back to the topic. Sorry, Fatima. Please do carry on.
Okay, let me go back to trying to share my screen. Hold on, I'm sorry, there's some echo. Okay, can you see my screen, please? Can't hear anything.
We can see
Okay,
your
my
screen
screen.
now. But maybe
Okay,
put it in
great.
present. It's easier to see.
Okay, let me do that immediately. Okay, all right. So I was saying, I was giving a brief intro on the Adventures Live Festival, and basically it started as an idea that Nana had to kind of move conversations from the blog to like a physical space, like a live physical space where we could like invite people, you know, to come and sit and for us to have these conversations that we've been having on the blog. And so Nana had, you know, at that time I had recently begun to work with Adventures. And so she kind of said, you know, I have this idea, what do you think? And I was like, oh, it's a really great idea. And so that's how come we put together the first working group for Adventures Live 2019. And the theme for the inaugural festival was decentering the D, pleasure, sex, and sexualities. And basically the thinking around that was to kind of like, you know, because in a lot of conversations and even people's experience people's experiences of sex and sexuality is always often focuses on cishet men, and specifically on their genitalia. So we wanted to have conversations where we could shift that focus from men and focuses on women and how women are experiencing sex, how women are experiencing pleasure, and how they're experiencing their sexuality. And so the focus of the festival was for us to create a space where people could express themselves, where people could, kind of get healing from all of these like patriarchal ideas that we have of what sex and sexuality is and how it affects like our day-to-day experiences of our sexualities. So the festival, the format of the festival was that it comprised of small intimate conversations. We also had large panel conversations. There was also a mini art exhibition, and then we also ran workshops on different topics. So some of the panels that we had a panel around sex work, we had a panel around law and religion, we had a panel on loving yourself as you are, we had a panel on we had a main stage panel actually on decentering the D, and then we had workshops learning how to learning how to wear a condom, right, on a dick or a phallus or whatever. There was also different workshops around sex toys and things like that. So that was the inaugural Adventures Life Festival. And then in 2020, that was last year, we also had this huge plan to kind of continue the festival. But at the time, we did not know that COVID was going to hit. In January 2020, nobody knew about COVID, that it was going to hit the way that it did. So we had a plan to kind of model the festival in the same way that we had done in the previous year. But then we were hit with a pandemic and we had to kind of re-strategize to find out the best ways that we could still host the festival, but in a way that was safe for everybody. And so we eventually came up with a 2-tier festival. So we ran it virtually, and then we also ran it physically close to the end of the year when it was a little safer for people to be out in public spaces. We had to, of course, keep in mind, social distancing, keep in mind COVID sanitary protocols like, hand washing and things like that. So in 2020, we launched the Odyssey of Desire, and the image on my screen is that the cover art that we had kind of come up with for the festival, and it was created by a Nigerian illustrator called Yinkore. And what we had tried to do, even with the cover art, was to make it as inclusive as possible. So if you can see on the cover art, there's 3 people, to represent different gender identities, to represent different sexual orientations, and also to represent, kink and BDSM practices as well. So what we had done in 2020, was so we made use of the blog. We had people who were sending us in submissions around, the overall theme of Odyssey of Desire. We had hosted a virtual poetry exhibition on the theme, and we also had like conversations that kind of like, gave meaning to the theme of Odyssey of Desire. So some of the things that we did was to explore desire and mindfulness, which was basically about, for people to become more aware of like what do I desire, why do I desire that, and how can I be more intentional, about kind of like leaning into my desire and like really getting pleasure from it. We also explored the erotic as power, and it was mostly around understanding like power play or power dynamics in the way that we experience sexual and romantic relationships. So we explored conversations around BDSM and how to kind of like be ethical about it. What we also did with the festival was to collaborate with artists in the community through a virtual art exhibition. We explored different depictions of desire by amazing artists. So these are some of the arts that we had kind of, exhibited. So we had artists who submitted their arts to us for it to be exhibited in the virtual art exhibition. In terms of panel discussions, we So we had three main virtual panel conversations. The first one was on raising kids without sexual shame. We had one around, sex and sexuality in the time of COVID, and then we had one on, polyamory and kind of like busting the myths and misconceptions. But in November 2020, that was when we had hosted like an actual physical conversation. As you can see, people are wearing masks because that was like reminiscent of COVID times. We had three panels. So the festival was run for 2 days. Again, because we wanted to be inclusive of as many people as possible. And we knew that if we were going to run the festival for only 1 day, given in mind that we're doing social distancing and limiting the number of people who could be physically present at a space, we knew that that was going to kind of like reduce the number of people who would be able to access the conversations. And so we had to split the festival into 2 days. And then we had panel conversations around sex work. We had conversations around body politics and desire. We had conversations around, we engaged young people speaking about, young people's experience of sexuality in a technological age. We also had community-based conversations whereby we engaged the LGBT community, and we had a special session for women loving women. Apart from the panel conversations that we had hosted, we also had an art exhibition and we had games. And again, a lot of the art that was exhibited on the day of was submitted to us by artists, within our community, people who buy into the vision of adventures. So that was also one of the things that we did. And we crowned off the festival with a live performance by Aduma, who is a neo soul artist based in Ghana. And so that's really about what we've done since 2019 to 2020. In 2021, we're also coming back again with a festival, but we're still, like in planning mode and execution mode. So I'm going to entreat everyone to follow us, our social media, our blog, so that as soon as we launch, you'll be able to join the conversations again this time. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima. And the thing that I want to add is that last year, you and Anakuste Hansen were the creative directors of the festival. So you really just played a leading role in terms of the coordination and steering. And thank you. You're also part of the working group this year to make the festival happen. So thank you for all of that labor. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I also want to talk about one of our latest adventure initiatives. And to be honest, it is currently my favorite adventures initiative.
Can I do a drum roll?
I know you're not supposed to have like a favorite, right? Especially when you have several babies. And Adventures is definitely a baby. The blog is a baby. The festival is a baby. The episodic series is a baby. But my favorite baby is the podcast. And what I'm going to do now is actually play for the first time publicly the trailer for the podcast. So I hope you are all ready. Turn up your volumes. Let me make sure my volume is 10 to the maximum, and I hope folks will be able to hear.
I'm Malika.
And I'm Nana Dalkwa, and we are the hosts of a new podcast called Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women. And if you've followed us long enough, you know that sex and pleasure is our calling.
In fact, it is our ministry. And as a pastor's wife, I know a thing or two about ministry. On this podcast, we will guarantee you conversation and new discoveries.
All titillating and orgasmic, of course. We talk about everything.
From squirting and dildos to penis sizes and foreplay. We have something for everybody. Straight folks, queer folks, and non-binary folks.
Stay with us on this explosive ride through sex, sexuality, and pleasure.
Coming soon.
Okay, so we hope you will all also come soon to join us on your favorite podcast platform to listen to the Adventures podcast. It's being produced by the good folks of AfroQueer Network. Yes, we're super, super, super excited to be part of the AfroQueer podcast family. And we've been working on the podcast now for, Malika, how long? Gosh, over 6 months for sure, right? Yeah, we've been working on this for, I think, well over 6 months. And we are launching in June. So we are super, super excited. I'm excited because I'm a lover of podcasts. You know, I think that's just really something nice about listening to audio stories. It allows you to convey emotion in a way that I think the written word doesn't allow you to. And for me as well, it allows us to bring other people's voices directly to you. So if I wrote a blog post, I could write about something somebody has shared with me, but I think there's nothing more powerful than hearing the person share their own story in their own words. And so this is just like one of the reasons why I'm excited about the Adventures podcast. We've had amazing conversations. We've had conversations with women who are 50 and above about what it's like to be growing older and whether your experiences of sex and sexuality change. We've had conversations with men, including trans men, including non-binary people, about their relationship with their penises or their dildos and strap-ons, you know, and that's been amazing. We've had conversations about orgasms because on Adventures, this is like one of the most popular topics that we talk about. How do you know when a woman has come? Like, what should you look out for? I interviewed my godchild, who happens to be Malika's daughter, you know, but the important thing is that she's my godchild. And she's like a super smart 16-year-old with like huge insights into gender and sexuality. And I'm like, when I was 16, I didn't have these kind of deep thoughts, even though I had done a lot more stuff than she has at her age, bless her, you know.
And let's keep it that way.
Oh, please. So I can spoil her proper. So yeah, I'm super, super excited about the podcast. I hope you will all be excited about it too. And yes, just like follow the AfroQueer social media channels and the Adventures channels to be notified as soon as the first episode is out. Malika, do you want to say anything about the podcast? Of course, maybe I haven't said so, but the podcast is hosted by Malika and myself. And Fatima works on the podcast as well as an associate producer. So this entire team here is all involved in the podcast.
This entire team is involved in the podcast, is involved in the festival, is involved in the and. We are the team. But no, I think you covered everything on the podcast. I'm also very excited because one of the things I didn't mention, which is kind of a pipe dream of mine, is to become a voice actor. I want to voice a mouse one day. And so while I only listen to one podcast, and two, when our podcast comes out, I listen to LeVar Burton Reads. And I mean, like, for me, he's just the ultimate. But I'm like, I want to either write something for him to read, or like maybe one day he'll ask me to co-read with him. And so, you know, when he hears how amazing we are, Nana, like on our podcast, he'll have no choice but to, you know, invite us to his show. And I'll be ready.
You've been ready. You've been ready.
But yeah, I mean, just echoing that it's a great opportunity to work with the AfroQueer Network and to be a part of this family, which the blog has brought us this far, our first baby.
Yes.
Yes.
And I know you already spoke a little bit about the episodic TV show. Do you want to say anything more on that?
Yeah, just a little bit more. I gave the history about how that became an initiative. But one of the things that I found interesting in preparing for this session is, for those of you who don't know, Adventures is, I don't know if I should speak past tense or present tense, but at the time it was the first blog of its kind on the continent. That is specifically African women writing about African women and writing about sex, sexuality, and pleasure. Like, we were the first. And that's not a brag, it's just a fact. I'm waiting for anybody to prove differently. But while I was preparing for this session, talking about going from a blog to a media company, I looked around to see if there were other, television shows, film series, anything like that were based on blogs. And there's plenty of, shows and movies that are based on books. Outlander, The Witcher, which everybody was talking about. But I have yet to see any television series that are based on blogs. There are lots of shows about female bloggers, where that's the plot device that moves the story forward. But my suspicion is that we are actually going to be the first blog to TV series, definitely on the continent, maybe even in the world. But we'll see. I mean, the world is big. But as we've been, doing our scripting and everything for the podcast, I found similarities in storytelling, specifically in this format, which is very different from storytelling in the blog or for blogging. So in our case, our source material for the episodic series is the blog, same as it is for the podcast. When you're writing scripts for television, it's very similar to script writing for podcast. You need an introduction, 3 acts, and a conclusion. That's generally the format for most storytelling, but most especially for podcasting and in filmmaking or television making. You need to do storyboards so you can get a visual idea about what your film might look like. And you can also do that with podcasting, but that hasn't been our experience yet. You'll need a cast and a crew. When you're a blogger, it's just you and your laptop or your phone. You're just sitting there pounding it out. But when you're working in the podcasting world, the same as the film world, you will definitely need a supporting cast behind you. So AfroQueer, for instance, has been really instrumental in providing all the kinds of tech support that would just do my head in, like the sound effects and, I call it audio lighting, where it lights up the audio in your mind. And then locations. We talked about how we're going to go on location to do podcasting so that you can hear the sounds of the city or the home or wherever it is. And it's the same when you're writing for television or film. And then post-production. And again, it's just very different when you're doing blogging, for instance, or specifically, it's just you, it's your laptop, you get it out, you hit publish. And the post-production might be editing, but it's definitely not as detailed as it is in the podcasting world, because working with AfroQueer, we've seen how we've had to go through many different rounds to make sure you get that right sound. And same thing happens when you're writing for film and television. You have to go through so many different rounds and drafts before it goes out. So those were just some of the things that I wanted to point out in addition to our origin story for the episodic television show.
Thank you so much, Malika. And hopefully folks now have, an insight on how we've gone from a blog to a media company. And yes, we have a question. How did you meet the folks over at AfroQueer, and did you have to pitch? It's a great question. I really believe in synergy and energies. So I've been saying to Malika, we need to do a podcast. And in fact, we had actually approached a different podcast producer, had some conversation with that podcast producer. They were going to come back to us with a proposal, and we kept chasing them and they weren't coming back to us. And then Sally, who is the founder of the AfroQueer podcast, reached out to me and said, Nana, have you guys ever thought of doing a podcast? And I was like, oh my God, we have been talking about doing a podcast and we want to do a podcast, and basically AfroQueer invited us to join their family, which we eagerly said yes to, and it's been a beautiful relationship. Yeah. Wondering if folks have any questions or any other questions for us at this stage. And even if you don't have a question now, you can always ask us, via our socials. We are usually very, very good at responding. Yeah. Other than that, I'll hand over to Fatima to say any last words. Fatima, you really have to stop speaking on mute.
First of all, I'd like to say thanks to everyone who showed up here to our session in spite of the thing that happened, for sticking with us. Thanks to the folks at AfroQueer for all their support, for giving us this platform. And thanks to, Nana and Malaika for being, a really amazing team to work with. I'm really excited. I'm just going to end by saying, folks should, continue to follow the work that we're doing. We're everywhere on the internet. We have a website, we have a YouTube, we have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter page, Instagram. So literally you can find us and now we're coming up with a podcast and an episodic film series and our festival. So you can literally find us everywhere. So please do follow our work and support us. Thank you so much, everyone. And have a great evening, I think, from Ghana.
Have a great day wherever you may be in the world.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Did we leave?
Welcome to AfroMic Studios. We offer podcast recording, editing, and consultation. For more information, visit our website www.afromicstudios.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at AfroMic Studios.
Oh, your body. Hey, whoa, whoa, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, hey, whoa, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on the Zoom In Fest. This was the last session done by Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women. That is Nana, Malaika, and Fatima. We'd like to thank you very much for hosting an amazing session. Guys, follow them on all platforms at Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women. We've had such a lovely conversation about their podcast, about the Adventures Live, and about the Adventures being for Dafo TV. So that was a very insightful conversation. You can continue the conversation on our socials. Any questions you may have, we will direct them to them and they'll be able to answer all the questions. Thank you everyone for being patient with us and joining and just interacting with us and making this Zoom In Fest an amazing success. I would like to thank everyone behind the scenes, everyone who joined over the course of the 4 weeks, everyone who participated in one way or another, all the panelists who led sessions during the 4 weeks, all of them from the beginning to this final one. A big thank you to everyone. We would also like to say AfroQueer Season 4 is coming soon, so watch out for that. Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women Season 1 is also coming soon, so watch out for that. And yeah, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time. So once again, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Oh, your body.